Hey, this is Kent Jones with Jones & Associates PC in Cleveland, Tennessee. This is going to be part 4 of workers' compensation law in Tennessee for employers. And this will probably be the last video on that particular subject. But today what I wanted to talk about was kind of the final, when you say final, it's kind of an amorphous term, but for purposes of this, the final stages, generally what occurs, and I think I've alluded to this before, is the injured worker at some point in time reaches a point that is known as maximum medical improvement, or MMI, and essentially what that triggers is the physician will then reference his or her copy of the American Medical Association guides to the evaluation of permanent impairment and come up with a permanent impairment rating specific to the injury that the injured worker sustains. Now, does maximum medical improvement really mean the end? Well, in a way it does and in a way it doesn't. I mean, it really is defined as when an injured employee reaches a state where his or her condition cannot be improved any further, or when a treatment plateau in a person's healing process is reached. Now, that typically means that most of the treatment is going to stop. There could be continuing physical therapy, there could be pain management, work hardening, things of that nature. But anyway, that's what triggers the permanent impairment rating, and that's when the you go back to section 3 of this series, and the multipliers are applied, and you come up with a number figure for settlement or trial within the Bureau, then there's the decision as to whether or not to leave medical care open or close it. There is a development in vocational rehabilitation, and historically, I'll tell you a little bit how that works. When I started this stuff in 1999, we didn't really have a lot of vocational rehabilitation that I ran across in hundreds of cases. We did consult with vocational consultants, and those were highly specialized people, usually with PhDs or master's degrees on both sides, that would evaluate the employee in a job-oriented way, according to the jobs available locally, nationally. It just depends on how they do it, and come up with a percentage that's called a vocational impairment rating, and that is altogether different than a medical impairment rating. Vocational consultations did occur in quite a number of cases. And when it switched over to the issue of whether or not the employer was going to pay for vocational rehabilitation, it was a good idea, but I never saw a lot of it. Now, I know that it's more prevalent these days than it was in the past. As far as the state goes, there is a vocational rehabilitation program, and if you click on the Bureau of Workers' Compensation and punch in vocational rehabilitation, you'll find out all about that particular program that a person can get into. I've also been aware, in a vague sense, that there's more teeth to the vocational rehabilitation within the confines of workers' compensation law in the state of Tennessee, and that there may be some restructuring of what we had once known as the Second Injury Fund to have funding for that. That's not anything that I run into a great deal. However, I'll be happy to look into it more and talk to you about it if you have a case that is in that particular area. That kind of finishes up what I've got to say on video on workers' compensation. I delivered a lecture for the National Business Institute, NBI, last July on, I think my areas were medical discovery issues and third-party subrogation, and I've been invited to do one in August of this year for them as well. They're a fantastic group. I first became privy to them when I took some of their courses in Nashville. Enjoyed them, and then taught the course for them last year, and we haven't really moved a lot in solidifying what will go on this year, but I'm sure that it will be a great presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, 423-424-6208. Email again is joneslaw08@gmail.com. Website www.jonesandassociateslawfirm.com. Thanks again, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.